What if we lived in a world where nobody could tell a fib? Michael, that jacket is hideous.
Well, I appreciate the honesty, Tony. Loser. We'll give you our honest opinion of The Invention of Lying with Ricky Gervais and Jennifer Garner. Also coming up this week at the movies.
I just want to tell you all that you're my new heroes.
Well, put some skates on. Be your own hero.
Beauty queen or roller derby queen? It's no contest for Ellen Page in the new comedy Whip It.
Tell him I need help. Please, I need help.
And from the guys who brought us Fargo and No Country for Old Men, we'll review the Coen brothers' new comedy, A Serious Man.
Gotta enjoy the little things.
Plus, post-apocalyptic devastation for laughs. Woody Harrelson stars in Zombieland.
I'm very embarrassed I work here.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
And you're very pretty. That only makes this worse. Your sister?
No.
Daughter?
No.
She's way out of your league.
I'm Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm A.O. Scott of the New York Times. What if you lived in a world where everyone told the truth all the time? And what if you were the first person in all of history who figured out that you could make something up? That's the situation faced by Mark Bellison, the sad sack hero of The Invention of Lying, a meandering, intermittently hilarious comedy co-directed by and starring Ricky Gervais.
The world's gonna end unless we have sex right now.
Do we have time to get to a motel, or do we need to do it right here?
In television shows like the British version of The Office and Extras, Ricky Gervais has excelled at playing unpleasant, self-deluded losers. But here in America, we like our big screen leading men nicer, with softer edges and upbeat attitude. That tension is part of what makes this movie uneven. Some of the early parts are very funny, though. It turns out that a world of complete honesty is a pretty brutal place.
It's my mom. I think she's probably checking on the date. It won't take long. Hello? Yes, I'm with him right now. No, not very attractive. No, doesn't make much money. It's all right, though. Seems nice. Kind of funny. A bit fat.
Jennifer Garner does a good job in the underwritten role of Mark's love interest, and a slew of comic show horses are trotted out in supporting roles, like Tina Fey as Mark's assistant.
Well, I told everyone you're getting fired this week, and they shouldn't expect their calls returned, so no one left any messages.
Okay. Next time,
I don't think there'll be a next time.
take the message, just in case I don't get fired.
You're almost definitely getting fired.
But The Invention of Lying doesn't quite live up to its potential. It's bogged down in too many squishy romantic comedy pieties. With a little more confidence and rigor, this could have been the next Groundhog Day. It falls short of being a must-see, but you'll have a pretty good time if you rent it.
No, it's no Groundhog Day, you're right. But I like this film more than you did, Tony. I think the first half hour would be almost impossible to sustain because it is so inspired. This idea of just launching into this, the story, and nothing is very different in the world except that no one has invented lying yet, which totally affects the idea of advertising. So you get somebody just on camera saying, hello, my name is Bob, please keep buying my product. That's it.
And movies, because the guy's a screenwriter, but of course no one can act, no one can pretend to be anything they're not. So the movies are just recitations of historical events.
Right.
But the problem is that, Ricky Gervais can be very funny and has a very sharp sense of humor, and his persona, his kind of unpleasant persona, is very compelling. But I think this movie just goes soft. I think in the last act, it really runs out of steam and becomes a kind of another story about a sad sack loser who gets this beautiful woman to fall in love with.
I agree. The rom-com writing, the romantic comedy angle with Jennifer Garner, not the best stuff in this picture. But if you gave up the last act, you wouldn't have any of that really sharp-witted discussion of religion kind of coming up out of nowhere. I think Gervais is not his own best friend behind the camera yet. He's not there as a director, but for me, he's got, there's a civility and an intelligence and a wit to the material, even when it's not totally clicking, that for me makes it worth seeing. I say see it. Okay, next movie. Can a film with a worldview bleaker than No Country for Old Men also be one of the funniest comedies of the new century? Yes, it can, if it comes from the most pitiless satirists in the business, Joel and Ethan Coen. Their latest is A Serious Man. It takes place in the sort of suburb the Coens themselves grew up in, outside Minneapolis. It's 1967. Larry Gopnik is a physics professor whose life is unraveling. With his son's bar mitzvah a couple of weeks away, Larry's wife has left him for another more substantial citizen, Cy Abelman. Here, husband, wife, and the other man discuss the next move.
Things can't continue as
Move out? Where would I go?
Oh, for instance, the Jolly Roger is quite livable. It's not expensive. The rooms are eminently habitable.
This would allow you to visit the kids.
There's convenience in its favor. You've got a pool.
Wouldn't it make more sense for you to move in with Cy?
Larry seeks counsel from a string of rabbis, including the incredibly well-guarded Rabbi Marshak.
It's not about Danny's bar mitzvah. My boy Danny, this coming Shabbos, very joyous event. That's all fine. It's more about myself. I've had quite a bit at Tsuris lately. Marital problems, professional, you name it. This is not a frivolous request.
The rabbi is busy.
That's Michael Stuhlbarg as Larry, who's pretty terrific in a role that's essentially reactive. The professor is offered a respite from his troubles by a neighbor played by Amy Landecker.
In the doghouse, huh?
Yes.
That's an understatement, I guess. Thank you. I guess
Do you take advantage of the new freedoms?
As the Job-like Larry struggles with ethical dilemmas of all sizes, a serious man goes from bad to worse, which is, of course, the Coens' preferred storytelling direction. Yet their observational touch here is so sure, both visually and verbally. The result is one of my favorites of theirs and one of my favorites of the year. I say, see it.
From your lips to God's ears, Boychik.
Okay.
Not that God would listen. He doesn't seem to be around much in this movie.
Not in
Certainly
this
doesn't
film,
listen to the pleas of his chosen people. This is a fascinating movie from the Coen brothers. I mean, it really goes back to their roots in the Jewish suburbs of Minnesota in the 60s. And there's a lot of very interesting variations on the tradition of Jewish humor. The whole first opening pre-credit sequence is in Yiddish. And then you're in Minnesota in this funny little suburban shtetl, and all of this crazy stuff starts to happen.
The thing is, too, people have gotten on this film already for being very close and maybe far into caricature, but I don't see this film as any different, really, in its comic tone. Its subject very different in its comic tone than the Texans in No Country, than the Lutherans you got in the Minnesota we saw in Fargo. You know, it's all of a piece with their worldview, and it is a bleak one, but I think the writing is unbelievably intricate and clever, and it's just one of my favorite scripts of theirs.
And the caricatures are based in this case on stuff that they know. I mean, you know, some of the characters in it reminded me of people in my own family, of aunts and uncles.
Right.
And I think what's fascinating too is that the Coen brothers have always consistently a cynical, nihilistic, misanthropic view of the world, where there's a universe that doesn't make any sense and that won't give any character any consolation.
Right.
And here, that worldview is sort of traced back to its source.
Tony, to me, this is as good as Fargo, as Barton Fink, and that it's right at the top tier, and twice as funny, maybe 5 times as funny as Burn After Reading, one of their biggest hits, which was not for me.
Amen. So see it already. And go to atthemoviestv.com and click on Web Exclusives, where Michael and I will give you more on the work of the Coen brothers.
Coming up next, Ellen Page is Hell on Wheels in the roller derby comedy Whip It.
The last time I wore skates, they had Barbies on them.
And later, basketball superstar LeBron James gives us an inside look at his hoop dreams with More Than a Game.
Kind of shared that bond.
29. Let's go. 23.
Looks like you've got some competition.
Yeah, wake me when she learns how to throw a hit.
Billy Elliot on wheels or Bend It Like Beckham with tattoos and bruises. Either way, Whip It, Drew Barrymore's directing debut, is not a movie with a lot of surprises. It's the story of a rebellious teenager, played by Juno's Ellen Page, who finds her talents and follows her dreams doing something her parents just don't get. In this case, that something is women's roller derby. Mom would rather she stick to beauty pageants.
I'm sorry that these pageants don't live up to your high moral standards, Bliss. But there's the love you can learn from them, no matter what you go on to be in life. You think you're being judged up there on that stage, but no one's asking you to be Miss America.
Marcia Gay Harden plays the mom, part of a jam-packed supporting cast that also includes Kristen Wiig, Juliette Lewis, and Drew Barrymore herself. They give Whip It a loose, freewheeling vibe. The script, by Shauna Cross, hits one familiar beat after another, from family quarrels to the inevitable food fight.
I like banana cream, but I like chocolate.
Bliss, that's Paige's character, learns so many valuable lessons in such a short time that she should get advanced placement credit. She struggles with her mom, bonds with her dad, has a crisis with her best friend, and finds a new tribe to belong to.
So, are you ready for your big debut?
Has anyone ever thrown up on the track before?
Yeah.
Let's get him! Kill him dead! Skate fast, skate hard!
I'm gonna puke.
I'm not sure I'll agree with Michael about this movie because I'm not sure if I agree with myself. The critic in me was rolling his eyes and groaning at every cliche that came down the road. The sappy, sentimental fan was cheering the whole time. Just this once, I'll go with the fan. There's nothing here you haven't seen before, but it won't hurt to see it again.
Always go with the fan, I say. Some movies...
I never trust the fan.
Some movies, I think, just succeed on what I would say is the hangout factor. Do you like hanging out with this ensemble cast? And the answer in this case, you know, overrides all your objections to the cliches of the script, to these kind of horsey contrivances the screenwriter comes up with to prevent everybody from finding out that she's sneaking away to Austin to be a roller derby queen. You know,
and then her dad discovers the internet one day and her cover is blown.
Right. But just you know, the skill level you get with Paige, with Drew Barrymore, with Kristen Wiig.
In Kristen Wiig, she's given a chance in this movie to be something other than the kind of creepy deadpan comedy lady. She actually plays a real character who does a lot to kind of draw out the world of this roller derby.
And I would say too, Paige, you get a different kind of color and tone because she's not she's not playing the hyper articulate, you know, Juno character that we had before. It's a different sort of thing. The scene that put me into really going with it is this late scene with Paige and Marcia Gay Harden. It's a very sincere heart-to-heart mother-daughter thing, you know, conventionally written, but it is delivered so well that I found out, okay, I'm with you, I'm with you.
Genuine. There's nothing cynical or phony in this movie, finally. And you mentioned the hangout factor. I always think of it also as the good time factor. Some movies you watch and you think, the people making this movie were having such a good time doing it.
And it conveys,
you can't help but share in that good time.
Yeah, so I say, see it. Coming up next, Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson chase the undead in Zombieland.
And on next week's show, Vince Vaughn, Malin Ackerman, Jason Bateman, and Kristen Bell go on a couple's retreat.
I had shark teeth penetrate my skin.
That's it.
My mother always told me, someday you'll be good at something. I mean, I don't think she could have guessed that something would be zombie killing.
Here's a fresh idea for a movie. Infected zombies who feast on human flesh, running amok in the streets of America. These monsters, of course, are a fixture of pop culture, whether the movies in question are earnest social allegories, breezy bloody spoofs, or a mixture of both.
I survive because I play it safe and follow the rules. My rules.
Zombieland blends laughter with mayhem, or at least it tries to. Jesse Eisenberg, as a survivor known as Columbus, plays his usual neurotic nerd, but this time with a shotgun. Woody Harrelson is Tallahassee, a foul-mouthed good old boy with a fetish for firearms and a taste for Twinkies.
What are you, prospecting? You are a dangerous man. You're gonna risk our lives for a Twinkie?
There's a box of Twinkies in that grocery store. Not just any box of Twinkies, the last box of Twinkies that anyone will enjoy in the whole universe.
The guys meet up with Emma Stone and Abigail Breslin, sassy sisters on the run from the legions of the undead. Neither the splatter scenes in Zombieland nor the winking references to other zombie movies feel especially inspired or original. The one exception is a bit in the middle when the four travelers arrive in Hollywood and meet up with someone very special. I won't give away who it is. It's funny, but it's not enough to save Zombieland from the grisly skip-it fate.
I'm happy to give it away because I like this movie. It's Bill Murray, a great cameo. And I think
the internet is lighting up already with denunciations of you, Mr.
Worst kept secret. I think this movie is great. Trash. I just started laughing early. I think this first-time director, Ruben Fleischer, knows how to set up a sight gag. And yes, they're incredibly gory sight gags, but the idea of having Jesse Eisenberg, you know, who's got this wonderful deadpan, he's actually drier than Michael Cera, which is really saying something. You know, to have him in the middle of a zombie splatter picture is inherently comic,
it's not enough. No, it's not enough. First of all, Jesse Eisenberg is doing exactly what Jesse Eisenberg does in every other movie.
It's invisible technique. It's excellent technique.
No, this movie is fundamentally empty. There is nothing in this movie but a kind of antic, frantic spinning around of all of the pop culture reference wheels. This movie adds nothing nothing to the genre. It doesn't add anything to the spoofs of the genre.
No,
it's
I
not in the
disagree.
George Romero
To me,
tradition.
it's
not in the Shaun of the Dead tradition. It's just
both of which I love. Both of which I love.
I love
and
them
this
too.
Is, yes, but to me,
this is like it was made for YouTube.
Now, this is like Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell, which was more serious than comic in a way, and here it's more comic and serious, but it's got a similar kind of fizz to it.
The only thing this movie is about how much people like zombie movies, and that's not enough for a zombie movie to be about.
I disagree. I thought it was fun. I say see it. Okay, next movie. We'd love to see a winning team in action, and the new documentary, More Than a Game, charts the rise, tiny bit of a fall, and then a tremendous second rise of NBA superstar LeBron James and his earliest teammates. The team was the Fighting Irish of the mostly white St. Vincent St. Mary High School of Akron, Ohio. Ever since the 8th grade, James was inseparable on and off the court when it came to his friends Sheon Cotton, Drew Joyce III, and Willie McGee. All they needed was the right father figure.
We won because we were together. We won because we respected Coach Drew as a coach, as a mentor, as a leader. And we had one goal, and that was to win a national championship. And we won't let nothing stand in our way.
The coach, Drew Joyce II, was that father figure, and a fifth player, Romeo Travis, eventually joined the squad. And once this talented loner figured out a way into a tight-knit group, everything clicked. Not everything clicks with the movie. Directed by Christopher Bellman, it's strictly routine in terms of technique. Still, around the halfway point, when the LeBron James crew runs into some adversity beyond the socioeconomic circumstances that get short shrift in the movie, it starts getting pretty good. So, Tony, I say for basketball fans particularly, rent it.
I agree. I mean, there's some great basketball in it, watching these kids play, some terrific sequences. And what is most interesting about it is that point where LeBron James is suddenly, as a young teenager, famous on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And it's about, partly the most interesting drama in the movie is really about what happens when celebrity falls out of the sky.
Right. I wish the movie
kids.
kind of dealt with how that changed the group dynamic a little bit more. But it's still, it's pretty good.
And of course, given that LeBron James is one of the executive producers of this movie, it's not going to be an expose. It's not going to go in too deep.
Right.
And that's too bad. But it is pretty interesting, and I do say you could rent it. Coming up next, Buzz, Woody, and Mr. Potato Head go 3D with Toy Story 1 and 2.
Watch yourself. Miles, who goes there? No readout yet if the air is breathable. And there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere. Hello?
For a 2-week run in theaters, Disney Pixar's Toy Story and Toy Story 2 are returning in a special double bill in 3D. Way back in 1995, Toy Story was the first animated feature made up entirely of computer-generated imagery, and the hyper-real crispness of its visual design seemed on the verge of 3D even in 2 dimensions. Now, though, you take an action sequence like this, and it's a real eyeful. The Pixar crew did go on to greater heights, including their astounding recent run with Ratatouille, WALL-E, and Up. But Toy Story 1 and 2 and their rocket-fueled blasts of invention look great with that added dimension. And of course, I always think my kid looks especially styling in those big Buddy Holly specs. So I say see it, or rather, see them both.
I'm often a little bit skeptical when movies get dusted off and refurbished and put back into theaters, but I have to say it's a great pleasure to see these characters again on the big screen, and especially some of the action and flying sequences really benefit from the 3D technology.
Yeah, this is really, in fact, I think retroactively, it was actually really built for 3D, and you don't feel like it's just a gimmick. Yeah.
And you see the progress that it makes from number 1, which was, you know, early days of this technology, to already, you know, number 2, which is a much richer visual field. And these characters, especially Toy Story 2, I think is such an unusual and beautiful story.
An unusually
really
good sequel. That's a very good sequel by any standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's lots of great stuff to see here, and you should definitely see it. Coming up next, your handy movie guide. Stay tuned for my 3 to See.
We're actually here to make a citizen's arrest.
Speak to my supervisor.
Closed captioning for At the Movies is sponsored by Hotel provided by Park Hyatt Chicago, Chicago's award-winning hotel and luxury dining experience, located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile on Water Tower Square.
And now for this week's 3 to See, movies currently playing that you don't want to miss. Number 3 is Jane Campion's Bright Star, a swooningly romantic literary love story set in the early 19th century and featuring a knockout performance by Abby Cornish. Number 2 is Capitalism, a love story, the latest political provocation from Michael Moore, which goes far beyond the economic crisis to examine the politics and morality of our current system. And number 1 is A Serious Man, which Michael and I both like a lot. Only Joel and Ethan Coen could turn the Book of Job into a Minnesota shaggy dog story with a soundtrack by the Jefferson Airplane.
That's it for now. Remember, we're always online. Just go to atthemoviestv.com.
We'll leave you with a recap of this week's show. Join us next week when we'll review Vince Vaughn, Kristen Davis, and Jon Favreau in Couples Retreat. And until then, we'll be at the movies.
Activon Ultra Strength for powerful pain relief. A convenient applicator means no messy creams. Activon, applied directly where it hurts for joint pain, muscle pain, arthritis, and backache.
In my busy kitchen, I want nothing but the best. Eggland's Best.
I love Eggland's Best because of all the great nutrition. That's why they're the only eggs I make for my son, the chef.
Eggland's Best, the better egg.
Millions of pet owners trust 1-800-PET-MEDS for fast service, free shipping, and big savings. Call now or order online from 1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy.
From Jennifer, get 40% off this bonded leather sofa, just $2.99, with very cool styling and so affordable. At 40% off, just $2.99. From Jennifer.